Well, and I appreciate you for doing that, what you're doing. That's generous of you. Even though I know they say the general, I'm going to say that's generous. So.
Well, I want you to make sure you understand this. I just didn't take you for granted on the first phone call.
That's right.
I know enough people down in southeastern United States that would know you that I gave a few calls to check and see.
Well, good.
You're not going to know who they were made to ever, and you don't need to. But I made a few calls to guys and said, "Now I've heard about Coach Jamey and over the years a little bit. Tell me what you thought of him as a coach and how did he deal with kids?" I got nothing but A+ for you from 5 different people that I called down in the southeastern United States, and was really enthused about the opportunity that you would have coming up here, and I would have to get to meet you.
Yes, well, and we'll enjoy some other opportunities hunting as well. There again, I like you're what you stood for, and I stood for the same thing, to get an education. I helped them, and it wasn't easy getting junior college players. You had one junior college player that I saw make the basket to win a national championship for you. I was watching him right here in New Orleans. I was sitting right up there in the stand. But anyway, at any rate.
Well, you know, I think we both wanted to win.
Doggone right.
More than anything, we both wanted to win. But we wanted to win by the rules, and we wanted to win in a way that the kids we were coaching developed an appreciation for what it took to win, how important it was to win, and they wanted to win in life. And I think both of us felt that way, and I think we're both very proud of the kids that we had an opportunity to coach over the years.
No question.
Does anything make you happier than phone rings and you don't know who it is, and you pick it up and you answer the phone by saying hello, and at the other end of the line you hear, "Coach, this is Billy Smith. Remember I played for you?" And right away, I think it always just kind of chokes me up a little bit when I hear that this is one of those kids that I was fortunate enough to coach over 40 years.
And as they improve and go on and get better or get better jobs or get a better place in life, I should say, then that's the happy part of it.
I always kind of like to tell a kid now and then, "Jamey, tell me what you think." I've never hesitated to say, "You know, Jimmy, you remember when you're a sophomore and you missed those 2 free throws in the Wisconsin game, you've come a long way since then, boy." I always want to remind them of something that they're not going to get away with. But basically, you know, the kids that you get to coach and the kids that work hard and the kids that are willing to work to graduate, there isn't any greater reward outside of your own kids than having had students that belong to somebody else look back and say, "Hey, I'm glad I played for that coach."
Well, and I'm sure you used this as well as I did. I used it when I had brought a kid to a campus to Chipola there. First thing I did, I put him with my other players, and when I put him with those other players, I let them do the recruiting. And I didn't tell him one way, yay or nay. I let them tell him about me and what I had done for them.
You know, I bet you've had this happen to you on occasion. I've not very often, because I think that we were pretty good in our evaluation of the kid and of his abilities. But there were 2 or 3 times when I had a couple kids come to me in the recruiting process and say, "Coach, I don't think we need to have that guy on our team."
I have had that.
Not very often.
I've had it.
But I always appreciated those kids that thought that there was a certain aura about our team and what they were expected to do, and they just didn't feel that that kid was worthy of being a part of that circumstance. And I love those kids that were willing to come in and say, "Coach, we don't need that guy."
Well, the late John Billups that played for Bob Webb that you had coaching.
Oh, Bobby's one of the great coaches that the Southeastern Conference has ever had.
Yeah, because he brought Ole Miss from the bottom to the top. But he recruited players for me there, and whenever they changed coaches at Ole Miss, John Billups called me, and I was the coach at South Alabama, and I went to the dormitory. You well know that wasn't the right thing to do, but what I told him when I got there probably wasn't what he wanted to hear. And I said, "You stay right here. You get your degree from right here, and you'll go far. You'll do well." And he got cut at the end with the Denver Nuggets at about 6'3" or 4, 6'4" and a half, and one of the leading rebounders in the SEC. But I told him, and I told a young man that had played at Texas Western on a National Junior College Championship team named Eugene Smart. I told him the same thing. I said, "You stay right where you are, and you'll be better. You'll be a better man for it."
You know, I don't think that people, the fans, they're only concerned about one thing, and that's winning.
That's winning. That's right.
And I don't care where the fans are or who the fans are. And you and I are right in the middle of wanting to win.
Absolutely.
And nobody would want to win. Nobody could pick out two guys that were more interested in winning than the two of us.
Right, I hate to lose.
But beyond that, there was one thing, and that was those kids leaving our team for graduation, having gotten a degree, and having made a real contribution, even if it was a substitute kid that never quite got to play in the first 5 or play a lot. But I think back to a kid that made 2 crucial free throws and that helped us win a big game. And that wasn't the only time that kid helped, but he was a come off the bench. I was a come off the bench player, and with a great group of players, I really kind of just sort of grinned and whistled on the way home when after a game I'd had one of those kids come off the bench and take over for a kid that was in foul trouble or whatever, and then he just shut that kid down, or he made 2 free throws or whatever. And those were the kids that I always tried to pat on the back. I like to say, "Jimmy, if you had made those 3," he only scored 4 points in the game, and I'd say, "Jimmy, if you had made 3 of those 4 free throws, we wouldn't have won this game."
And we were in the finals of the regional state, Region 8 finals to go to the national tournament, and came off the bench, had arms that dripped down about his knees. He wasn't about 6 feet, and I really didn't want to take him. I didn't think he was good enough. But his coach asked me to take him. He was local. We took him. And when he started guarding the other guy, who they had just finished giving the Region 8 Player of the Year, he shut him down so bad, he couldn't even get his shot off. Not only that, he knocked it every time he grabbed it and stuck it in front of him. He slapped out his hand, run out and scored 2.
You know, what I used to think of and get the most kick out of that kind of a kid was that we recruit Jimmy Smith, and he's not being very heavily recruited.
That's right.
And maybe he wanted to go to this particular school, but they turned him down. And I loved it when Jimmy Smith made a big bucket against that school 2 or 3 years later, and there wasn't anything I liked better than to pat Jimmy on the ass and say, "Why don't you call that coach and tell him we just beat him tonight?"
That's right.
I used to have some fun with kids like that.
Oh yeah, oh always. Yeah, we had a kid from Miami. He played for Jake Caldwell, who you knew, Miami Jackson, and we went on the floor that very same night. We went on that floor. They were 29-0, and we had struggled for 2 prior games, but we had won. And this kid's name was Ray Shipman. You talk about seeing him later on. I'll tell this brief, quick story. But Ray, they had 2 big old kids that had played with him, and he whipped them. He whipped them on both ends. He was the Region 8 MVP, but better than that, about 4 or 5 years later, I turned the television on, and they got 48 Hours on CBS. And they have this star Dade County police officer. Guess who that was? Ray Shipman. He later, his son was Mr. Basketball in Florida. He married a girl from right there in Mariana, and she made a man out of Ray. Sometimes I had to make a man out of him, but that happens, as you well know. But anyway, just people like that. That's the same thing you're saying. That's our parallel.
Well, the thing that I really appreciate about coaching is that it isn't something that you forget. It isn't.
That's right.
It isn't something that you don't pay any attention to or you don't remember. I mean, here I am. I haven't. I coached for 40 years, is about what you did, and then I've got 15 or 20 years after that in, and yet I think I just say to myself, now coaching. And then I look back over and I pick out this kid and I laugh about something that we had with that kid, and another kid comes and I say, boy, did that kid play well in that game, and that's what coaching does for the coaches, I think. It gives you memories of games and wins and also losses, but more than anything else, it gives you a chance to kind of remember and silently thank the kids that played for you.
Absolutely, and they're thanking you back when they do well, and that's what I'm always been the most interested in, regardless of their ability. If they wanted to play and they wanted to not lose, I did not want to lose, and I recruited day and night sometime to keep from doing that.
Well, people would say that there would be people that would say that winning was too important to you, or winning was too important to me, that you get on. Well, you never paid any attention to that, and I never did either, because I thought that teaching kids first and foremost was how to win. How to win fairly, but damn it, how to win. Really? And nothing pleases me more than to get a note from that kid that thanks me for having had the chance to play on our team, or to say, Coach, I didn't know how much this was going to mean to me till I had to get out on my own. So you and I have been tremendously rewarded by a lot of kids over a lot of years.
Yes, we have. My high school coach told me when I was a young man, he said, they talk about a kid crying. He said, heck, I want him to cry. I want him to hate to lose. That's what I want him to do. And I tell people that all the time. They said, why would he cry? I said, dang, he hates to lose.
Oh, boy, that's...
that don't bother me to see one cry. I'm glad of it.
Didn't bother me a bit either. But I look back and I say to myself, I'm really glad that I chose to be a coach.
Yes, sir. Well, you were a good one. And I think the main thing of all in the world, that other parallel you and I have is, we had respect. And there's only 3 ways I know to get respect. And that's ask for it, earn it, or make them respect you. Now, if there's any other way to get it, I want to learn what it is.
Well, that approach has helped a lot of kids over a lot of years.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me that time.
Well, I want to thank you, but I don't want to ruin my heart doing it.
That's right. Well, your heart,
I hope yours stays okay, but I want to thank you for being here, because I have really enjoyed it.
Well, your heart will be fine. And when we start killing pheasants, and I outshoot you a little bit, then your heart will be fine there too. I'm a quick draw.
Well, I am sure you are, and we'll have a lot of fun doing that.
That's right.
And I want to thank you for taking the time to come up here to Montana and talk about basketball, and most of all, talk about the game with a person that I really admire for what he did for the game of basketball.
Thank you, sir.